in the northwest corner of Saudi Arabia, where summer temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius and annual rainfall barely reaches 100 millimeters. Something impossible is taking shape. A ski resort, not an indoor snow park. Not a simulation, an actual mountain resort with 36 kilometers of ski slopes, luxury hotels carved into mountainsides, and a man-made lake stretching 2.8 kilometers across a ridge that has never known standing water. This is Trojena, the crown jewel of NEOM's Mount Ambitions, the venue for the 2029 Asian Winter Games, and perhaps the most audacious construction project currently underway on Earth. The promise is staggering. Year-round skiing in the Arabian Peninsula, 700,000 annual visitors by 2030, 7,000 permanent. Residents living at altitude in a region that records natural snowfall perhaps once per decade. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman announced Trojena in March 2022. 7 months later, the Olympic Council of Asia voted unanimously to award Saudi Arabia the hosting rights for the 2029 Asian Winter Games, the first winter sporting event ever held in an Arabic-speaking country, the first Asian Winter Games in the Middle East. Trojena will have a suitable infrastructure to create the winter atmosphere in the heart of the desert, declared Nadmi Al-Nasar, then CEO of NEOM. This will make the Winter Games an unprecedented global event. Unprecedented. That word carries weight here. The budget has already doubled, from $19 billion to $38 billion, according to internal NEOM documents from late 2024. For comparison, the entire Beijing Olympic Village for the 2022 Winter Olympics cost $3 billion. Trojena is costing 11 times more, and it is not finished. In fact, as of late 2025, internal discussions have begun about whether it can be finished at all, at least not in time. To understand Trojena, you must first understand where it exists. The site sits in the Sarawat Mountains, also known locally as the Midian Range, 50 kilometers inland from the Gulf of Aqaba. Close enough to Jordan that on clear days you can see across the border. The elevation ranges from 1,500 meters to 2,600 meters above sea level. The highest peaks in Saudi Arabia. This is Jebel Allah's territory, a region where temperatures in winter can drop below freezing, where the air is noticeably cooler than the scorching lowlands, where, in rare years, snow has actually fallen naturally. But cooler and suitable for skiing are vastly different categories. The reality is this. Trojena's climate ranges from -17 degrees Celsius to 22 degrees in winter. Sounds acceptable until you examine the precipitation data. Almost no measurable snowfall. The region is classified as semi-arid, dry, dusty, beautiful in its harshness, but fundamentally hostile to the concept of winter sports. This is the geographical contradiction at Trojena's heart. The mountain provides the elevation provides the cold, but nature provides no snow. Every flake that falls on Trojena's slopes will be manufactured, pumped, engineered. The entire winter experience will be artificial, a simulation of Alps conditions created through technology in a landscape that has never naturally supported them. The master plan, designed by German architecture firm Lava, divides Trojena into 6 distinct clusters: Gateway, Discover, Valley, Explore, Relax, and Fun. Each cluster houses specific functions: ski slopes and hotels, wellness retreats and wildlife reserves, restaurants and residencies, a complete mountain ecosystem manufactured from scratch. The architects describe their approach as using a scalpel rather than a bulldozer, conserving and enhancing the natural mountain rather than simply flattening it. But satellite images tell a different story. Massive excavation, roads carved into previously untouched terrain, the footprint of ambition pressing into ancient rock. Everything at Trojena depends on water, and water, in this corner of Arabia, does not exist naturally in usable quantities. The solution is a pipeline, 200 kilometers long, running from the Gulf of Aqaba, where a desalination plant will extract fresh water from the Red Sea, inland and upward to Trojena's elevation of 2,600 meters. That vertical climb, 2.6 kilometers, straight up, represents one of the most challenging pumping operations ever attempted for a civilian project. The water serves multiple purposes. First, filling the artificial lake, a 2.8-kilometer ribbon of blue designed by Australian firm Bureau Proberts, held in place by 3 massive dams. The largest dam will stand 145 meters high and extend 475 meters in length. Italian construction giant Webuild secured a $4.7 billion contract just to build the lake infrastructure. Second, the water feeds the snowmaking system. Artificial snow requires enormous volumes of water, forced through high-pressure cannons, crystallized in sub-zero temperatures, and deposited across 36 kilometers of ski terrain. Modern snowmaking operations can require hundreds of thousands of liters per hectare of slope per season. Third, the water sustains all human activity. Drinking, cooking, sanitation, landscaping, the 7,000 planned residents, and hundreds of thousands of annual visitors will all depend on desalinated water, pumped from 200 kilometers away. Here's the problem. As of late 2025, construction has not begun on the Sharma desalination plant. The original schedule called for the lake filling to commence in 2025. That deadline is passed. Currently, water for construction activity is being trucked in via tankers, a temporary solution that cannot scale to operational requirements. According to calculations cited by the Financial Times, using a pipe with a diameter of 1 meter-esque, currently planned would require water to flow at full capacity for at least 2 years just to fill the lake. 2 years. At maximum flow to fill one lake. And the desalination plant does not yet exist. If Trojena has a symbolic heart, it is the vault. Designed by Lava Architects as the gateway to the entire resort, the vault is not merely a building. It is a vertical village carved into the mountain itself, a folded structure spanning the gap between 2 peaks, housing 450 homes, 1,000 hotel rooms, 13,000 square meters of retail, and dining. And what promotional materials describe as a space where the physical and digital worlds converge. The vault was meant to be the first thing visitors experience, a dramatic entrance, a statement of capability, proof that Saudi Arabia could reshape geography itself. Instead, the vault has become the clearest illustration of Trojena's challenges. Building the vault requires removing what one person familiar with the project described as a mind-boggling amount of rock. The mountain must be blasted, excavated, and stabilized before any construction can begin. Then come the tension cables. 3,000 of them, driven deep into the remaining rock walls to provide structural stability for the suspended elements above. The rate of progress, 1 cable per day. At 1 cable per day, installing 3,000 cables would take more than 8 years. The 2029 Asian Winter Games are scheduled for less than 4 years from now. This single data point, 1 cable per day, has become a focal point in discussions about Trojena's feasibility. It suggests not merely delays, but fundamental timeline impossibility unless something changes dramatically. Former NEOM workers have described Trojena as one of the better managed components of the broader megaproject. Compared to the line, which has been scaled back from 170 kilometers to 2.4 kilometers. Trojena has at least maintained its core vision, but maintaining vision and delivering reality are different achievements. In late 2024 and early 2025, NEOM released images showing artificial snow covering a 400-meter test slope at white against brown. Proof of concept, evidence that snowmaking technology could function in this environment. The images circulated globally. Saudi Arabia had created snow in the desert. What the images did not show, the infrastructure required to scale that test to 36 kilometers of operational ski terrain. Industrial snowmaking is energy. Water must be pumped through high-pressure systems, combined with compressed air, cooled, and sprayed through snow cannons that convert liquid into crystalline snow. The process works best when ambient temperatures stay consistently below freezing. When temperatures rise, snow production becomes exponentially more difficult. At Trojena's elevation, winter temperatures do occasionally drop below zero, but not consistently. not reliably. The snowmaking window, the period when artificial snow can be produced and maintained, is measured in weeks, not months. NEOM has announced plans for year-round skiing. 3 months on actual snow during winter. The remainder using synthetic, dry slopes, artificial surfaces that simulate the friction of snow without requiring cold temperatures. The electricity demand for continuous snowmaking at this scale could rival that of small towns. All of it must be generated on site or transmitted from distant power plants. NEOM has committed to powering Trojena with 100% renewable energy, solar and wind primarily, but the challenge lies in storage. Snowmaking peaks at night when temperatures drop. Solar production peaks during the day. The mismatch requires massive battery systems or alternative storage solutions. None of this is impossible, but all of it is expensive. The cost has already escalated from $19 billion to $38 billion. Some analysts project final costs could climb higher still. By the time Trojena opens, whenever that occurs, it may become the most expensive ski resort ever constructed. Trojena has assembled an all-star team of global architects, names that appear on landmark buildings worldwide. Firms known for pushing boundaries. Lava, the German practice, designed the master plan and several signature structures, including the Vault and the Raffles Mountain exclusive resort. Their approach emphasizes cellular networks and fractal patterns, clusters of buildings settled within the mountainous contours rather than imposed upon them. Zaha Hadid Architects, the legendary British firm founded by the late Dame Zaha Hadid, designed the Discovery Tower, a crystalline supertall skyscraper standing 330 meters high. Roughly, the height of the Eiffel Tower, positioned atop a mountain overlooking the artificial lake. The tower will house observation decks, retail spaces, and restaurants connected to other resort areas by cable car. Hong Kong Bestedas designed the ski village itself, the core winter sports infrastructure. Their scheme places ski slopes directly on building rooftops, creating a landscape where you literally ski down hotels. Dutch firm Owen Studio contributed the slope residencies. Australian practice bureau Proberts engineered the lake system. Collectively, these firms have delivered some of the world's most challenging projects: opera houses on harbors, museums in deserts, towers in hurricane zones. But Trojena asks something different. Not just technical difficulty, but philosophical contradiction. These architects are designing winter in a place where winter does not exist, creating alpine experience in terrain that is fundamentally non-alpine. Lucas Kronawiter Elavas, urban design director, described the approach. The idea behind the master plan was to conserve, enhance, and reimagine the mountain. Reimagine. The word contains the tension at Trojena's core. This is not preservation, it is transformation. The mountain will become something it has never been. Whether that transformation enriches or diminishes the landscape depends entirely on perspective. October 4th, 2022. Phnom Penh, Cambodia. The Olympic Council of Asia announces its decision. Saudi Arabia will host the 2029 Asian Winter Games at Trojena. The vote is unanimous. Prince Fahad bin Jalawi bin Abdulaziz, Vice President of the Saudi Arabian Olympic Committee, calls it a great victory for the Saudi nation and the people of the Gulf. The promise: athletes from across Asia, China, Japan, South Korea, India, and dozens more will compete in skiing, snowboarding, ice hockey, and speed skating, in a venue that does not yet exist, in a country that has never hosted a winter sporting event, on snow that'll be manufactured from desalinated seawater. 3 years pass. Progress occurs but falls behind schedule. By August 2025, reports emerged that the kingdom is quietly exploring alternatives. The Financial Times reports that Saudi officials have held internal discussions about relocating the 2020 Games to South Korea or China, with Saudi Arabia potentially deferring its hosting to 2033. The Olympic Council of Asia contacts the Korean Sport and Olympic Committee. Ru Sungmin, the KSOC president, confirms the approach. Gangwon Province host of the 2018 Winter Olympics has existing infrastructure that could accommodate the Games with minimal preparation. NEOM issues a statement. The development of NEOM, including Trojena, is progressing according to a phased plan that emphasizes international standards, long-term sustainability, and legacy outcomes. Eversendai Corporation, one of Trojena's contractors, acknowledges early-stage challenges, particularly in relation to execution timelines and the unexpectedly complex terrain and rock conditions. The contractor adds that these issues, while significant, are not insurmountable. But the company also states, to address the pressures associated with tight deadlines and logistical challenges, the Saudi Arabian government is reportedly exploring the option of transferring the hosting rights for the Asian Winter Games to South Korea. The admission is remarkable. A contractor publicly acknowledging that their client may abandon the project's signature event. Here is the paradox that shadows Saudi Arabia is the world's second-largest oil producer. 70% of state revenue comes from petroleum. The kingdom's carbon footprint per capita ranks among the highest globally. NEOM Trojena specifically is marketed as proof that Saudi Arabia is changing. Building sustainable, thinking beyond oil. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has stated that Trojena confirms our commitment to be part of the global effort to protect the environment. But environmental scientists raise uncomfortable questions. A 2025 study examined snow supply projections for Trojena under climate change scenarios. The findings: at the highest elevations, Trojena can currently support a median of 68 skiable days annually with artificial snow. By the 2050s, under moderate warming scenarios, that number drops to 57 days with increased variability between years. At lower elevations within the resort, the median skiable days in the 2050s drops to 0. The resort is being built for a climate that is already changing. Meanwhile, the construction itself generates massive carbon emissions. Heavy machinery running on fossil fuels, cement production, steel manufacturing, the embodied carbon of building an entire resort from scratch in a remote desert location. NEOM claims Trojena will operate as carbon neutral. Richard Bush, NEOM's chief environmental officer, acknowledges that 93% of Trojena's carbon footprint will come from construction materials rather than operations. Embodied carbon is the frontier where the climate change challenge is going to be won or lost, Bush stated. Critics call this greenwashing. The environmental organization, QST, noted that the planned ski slopes of Trojena are likely to endanger the biodiversity of the mountain due to the use of artificial snow. Artificial snow changes soil chemistry. Desalination plants produce brine waste that impacts marine ecosystems. Pumping water 200 kilometers and 2.6 kilometers upward requires enormous energy. The question is not whether Trojena can exist. Technology makes almost anything possible given sufficient resources. The question is whether it should. Philip Goulet, executive director of Trojena, has stated that the absolute priority remains readiness for the 2029 Winter Games. The Olympic Council of Asia publicly insists work is advancing on schedule while privately approaching backup hosts. Saudi Arabia has invested billions, perhaps tens of billions, into a mountain that 4 years ago held nothing but rock and wind and ancient silence. Something is being built at Trojena. Satellite images confirm tunnels, access roads, the footprint of the future lake, test slopes covered in artificial white. Whether what is being built will match what was promised remains uncertain. The 2029 deadline approaches like weather, immovable, indifferent to ambition. Columbia University's Karen Young, an expert on Gulf economies, offered this assessment. It may all come together at the last minute, just enough to deliver the image of success. The image of success, not success itself. The distinction matters. Trojena exists in the gap between vision and reality, between what technology can achieve and what nature permits, between the timelines of press releases and the timelines of physics. The mountain has stood for millions of years. It has seen empires rise and fall across the valleys below. It has no opinion on ski resorts or winter games or the ambitions of princes. It simply waits. Whether the snow comes artificial, manufactured, engineered into existence through force of will and billions of dollars, the mountain will still be there. Reshaped, tunneled and blasted and covered in structures that could not have existed 50 years ago. But mountains have long memories. And the question that Trojena poses is not really about skiing or sports or tourism. It is about something older. Something that every civilization eventually confronts. Can we engineer our way past the limits that geography and climate impose? Or do those limits eventually impose themselves upon us? The answer is being written in rock and water and artificial snow, high in the mountains of Saudi Arabia. The world is watching.